what strategies can we use to deal with intense sadness? It's a difficult question, that. Some things you literally just have to live through, knowing that they will change. That even the most terrible things that cause the deepest sadness, there's just an amazing attribute that our mind and our heart and that our consciousness has, and that we adapt, and over time things change and settle and understanding arises, and we realize that although that we can't undo whatever it was that caused us that sadness, we can transform and evolve and change the meanings and the feelings that we have given it. And after a while, we start to realize that actually the sadness doesn't come out of the event. The sadness comes out of us. And that may sound strange, but if, say, somebody dies and somebody who didn't know that person who died, they're not that bothered. Okay, he died, people die, that's it. And yet someone who really loved that person, they feel a tremendous sense of grief and loss. The feeling didn't come out of the actual death of the person. The feeling came out of us. And when we start to get this, then we can choose, if we want, after a certain amount of time, to start to consciously accept what is, to accept the situation, to let it be. And the grief changes. It might change into anger. It might change into bargaining with God. It might change into denial. It never happened. I don't believe it. I can't believe it. I won't believe it. And then finally, acceptance comes. There are some sadnesses that never really go. They're like a colour that remains always, or like a tone in the soul that remains always. But usually sadness passes. At the time, often we think it's never going to pass. How could it? And it does. We find a new place to put that event in. We give it a new context. And gradually we learn to live with it. And sometimes, after our hearts are broken, they begin to heal. And then sometimes after that, because our heart was broken, something very beautiful has happened inside us. Perhaps it may be that we can feel love, compassion, kindness more deeply. Somehow, having gone through that experience of deep sadness and come out of it, somehow the heart, when it rebuilds, is bigger, kinder, stronger, more universal. And this is like the blessing that comes from the horribleness that we had to go through. But there is one thing I think that's important to say when it comes to the sadness that comes from people dying. Sometimes I've met people and they've been grieving for a long time. Almost like too long. And then when I've talked to them, it's become clear that actually what we uncovered is that they think that as long as they grieve and feel sad and upset, it's like keeping a connection with the being who's gone. But it isn't. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The grief you feel is your grief. It's your reaction. It's not coming from the deceased. It's not coming from the event. It's coming from you. As soon as that passes, which can take a long time or a short time, but as soon as it's passed, then you'll be able to feel one of life's great mysteries about love. How they've gone, yet they are here. They've gone, yet they are here. You can feel it. There is still a loving feeling for them. And it's a mystery, and the mind doesn't really know anything about it. But the heart does. So if you want to feel a communion and a mystery and a love with your departed, let your grief come, let it pass, and then the mystery, this great mystery, will show itself. How what is in our heart never leaves. Everything changes. And fundamentally, all is well. When you're feeling grief, when you're feeling intensely sad, there aren't really any words that can do much. I know that. It's just words. But it will pass. It will change. The sun will rise again in your life and in your heart.